Good evening. Our community joins the Rosenzweig family as we commemorate the Shloshim 30 days of passing of Dina Rosenzweig of blessed memory. Please join me in wishing Esther Petal, Maschana Dvora, a full and complete recovery. I'd like to start by introducing Dina brother Mordechai, who will lead with the completion of the tractate of Mishnah Ahalot, representing all who together studied and completed all of the Mishnah. In memory, Mordechai, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So we all by the Shiva, it's customary to everyone to take upon themselves. We split up the entire Mishnayos amongst everyone that was there. We completed the entire Mishnayos more than 1.5 times, and now I'm going to make a siyum on the track that I took, which is going to be a completion for everyone else. Everyone already finished, and I'm going to be finishing the last paragraph of the chapter I took. One quick thing, Mishnah. The reason why we take on Mishnayos to learn for someone that passes away is because neshama is the same word as Mishnayos. It comes from the same letters, and that is the reason behind us doing this. So I'm going to say the Mishnah, and then I'm going to say Kaddish. I have a mini with me over here to be able to say Kaddish. So the last Mishnah of Eilis. Asar Mekaimes Ein B'Im Mishum Madad Goyim. There's 10 places which do not have the status of do not have the status of the Tumah of Madad Goyim. Ole Arivim V'Asukus V'Haritzpa V'Habugarin V'Ha'alik Jeis V'Shar V'Yosha Chatzar Merchatz U'Makim Achitzin U'Makim Ha'Ligyonis. They are an Arab tent, a tent outside, triangular tents, fruit tents, a guard tower, a guard hut, an open-aired courtyard, an armory where they store arms, and a place where people that come, the soldiers, they say that since these are temporary dwelling places, they have a lower status of tumah. Yiskadlo v'yiskada shmei rabbo. Om d'vrach harusi v'mat mechusi v'asnach b'karni v'karim v'shichei v'chayechen v'yimechen d'chay d'cha b'yisrael v'gol v'zmakari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbo mevarach olam al me'amaya yisparech yishabach v'yispar v'yishem v'yisnasei v'shadar v'shalab v'shalosh meksha b'richu l'eilam karachas v'shirasa tush v'chas v'nechamasa v'mira ba'oma v'imru amen. Yisrael Rabban of Altamadean, Valkotam de Samadean, Valkomanda Asking Beraista, Diva, 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 Sar, Vasar, Hail Hono, Consulam Rabba, Hin, the Bechis, the Racham, and Haimerichin, Mazain, Rebichan, Bekon, the Makad, Mahov, and the Shemaya, the Imruamen, the Haitian Rabba, Mishmaya, Time Table, and Bakaisto, the Imruamen, Isa Hashal, and Remem, who else Shamal, and Bakaisto, the Imruamen.
Mordechai, that was amazing. And for those who may not know, Ahalot is not the easiest tractate. Boy, have you taken on a lot. But what a brother doesn't do for a sister. You're an amazing brother, and your family's an amazing family. And I'd like to introduce Leah's mother, Mrs. Dvora Rosenzweig, who will be followed by Minda Lerner, and they will share a couple of projects, initiatives that have been started in memory of Dina Leah. The link to participate will be in the chat box.
Hi. So first, we just want to say thank you to all the people that helped us. There were just so many. Thank you to Rabbi Volovic and Chani Volovic, who took charge of our home base before and after we returned home. They brought in Chai Lifeline right away to speak to the kids. The Volovics organized everything for us that you could imagine, including making sure our daughter Tamara with special needs was taken care of, and so much more. Thank you to Rabbi Sachs, who came to our home when he heard about the accident, and he drove the 7+ hours to Buffalo with us. He guided us every step of the way and was a big comfort, even more so after Dina Leah's soul returned to her maker in that ICU hospital bed in Buffalo. Thank you to Ricky Ratner and her family who came and took our daughter Tamar, who has special needs, to her parents' home for days at a time so that we didn't have to take care of her during the Shiva. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you to Hanina Berman for saying Kaddish. Thank you to Rabbi Taub, who will be speaking in a few minutes. Thank you to the Chabad of the Five Towns community. The total outpouring and help from the community has been amazing. So appreciated and honestly so needed. Thank you to everyone from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you to Chaya Unstorfer and to Chavi Lieberman, who had to pick up the slack at Cheder Chabad Girls of Long Island from my not being able to do almost anything for the school for over the past month. Thank you to my in-laws, Grandma Sandy and Grandpa Dennis, who have always been there for us through everything. To my sister-in-law, Candace, who hasn't stopped doing, and to all of our family who has been here for us. It really still seems so surreal. It's been 30 days since Dina's death, passing. During these 30 days, so much has been done to elevate her soul. These are some of the things that have already been done for the elevation of her soul. Our son Mordechai, who you just heard, organized a round and a half of Mishnayos that he just completed now that you heard. The Shabbos candle lighting campaign in Coral Springs, Florida was done in memory of, for the soul of Dina Leah. There are women who don't usually light Shabbos candles who did. There were men who don't usually put on tefillin who did. Rabbi and Mrs. Nachum Tenenbaum sponsored the first day of learning at both Cheder at the Ohel and Cheder Chabad Girls of Long Island in memory of Dina Leah. Tamar Pesner added Dina Leah's name for the elevation of her soul to the daily Torah postings that she sends out on WhatsApp. Banos Chamesh Academy, one of the high schools where Dina attended, has a lounge project that they started, which Minda Lerner is going to speak about in a few minutes. The girls that Dina knew from Banos Chaya Academy, where Dina graduated high school, sent us a beautiful picture album of Dina with her friends that we really, really appreciate. There was a shofar blowing on Rosh Hashanah in Comac in Dina Leah's memory. The Chai Center in Dix Hills dedicated their Rosh Hashanah booklet in memory of Dina Leah. Chabad of the Five Towns is dedicated for the entire year their monthly mitzvah awareness campaign in loving memory of Dina Leah. I hope we didn't miss anything. We appreciate every mitzvah and every effort that has been and that will be done in memory of our dear Dina Leah. I would now like to mention a project that we are about to launch as a project of Cheder Chabad Girls of Long Island, which is located in Lynbrook, New York. So we're calling it the Dina Leah's Life Initiative. It is a project of Cheder Chabad Girls of Long Island, and God willing, this program will be successful and will be implemented at other schools in the future as well. Dina Leah was a spunky girl with a naturally sweet disposition. As she entered her teenage years, she struggled academically and socially. Dina Leah's life was cut short by a tragic car accident. The Life Project is being launched to give children the tools needed to succeed in school and in life. Our mission is to ensure, through special programming, that every student at Cheder Chabad Girls of Long Island is able to read, learn, and grow socially and emotionally to her highest potential. The Dina Leah continues to have life through this cutting-edge program of empowerment. And LIFE stands for literacy, inclusion, friendship, and emotional health. And I'm just going to expand a little bit about each of those categories. So literacy, every child reads. LIFE will provide teacher training on inclusive methods of teaching reading in the youngest grades, a reading specialist to work one-on-one with children who need the extra time to learn, give individualized attention to students who have reading difficulties or dyslexia, curriculum development on the best ways to teach reading, purchase and implement the most innovative reading programs, as well as evaluations throughout the year to see if or where a student is struggling, and working with district therapists to advocate the best IEP for a child classified with a disability. Inclusion, every child matters. LIFE will work towards fostering understanding and interpersonal relationships among students, presenting teacher workshops on how to breed resilience in students, as well as social skills programming. Friendship, every child appreciated. LIFE will encourage healthy friendships and interactions between students through Avas Yisrael programming, Midos programming, and more. Emotional health. Every child thrives. Life will provide a social worker and teacher development, as well as teacher and parent training and classes to give tools to parents to identify a struggling child. To learn more about the LIFE program and how to honor the legacy of Dina Rosenzweig by contributing to the success of others, I think that they're going to post the links, but it's admin@ccgli.org, and there's ways to make checks and to donate in other ways, but I think someone is going to post that for me. And I would like to also ask, before Rabbi Tab speaks, Minda Lerner to speak about the program that they're doing at Banos Chamesh Academy. I don't know how to put her on, but Mindel, do you know how to?
So we got together, a lot of the girls, our principals from Banos Chamesh, and we tried to think of something that could forever be in Banos Chamesh. Starting now, that will a project that will create that will represent what we always saw in Dina when she was in school, which was a genuine kindness on her face and a happiness that we always saw on her face. And we discussed and tried to put together something that we know she would want for all the girls who are going to be in Banos Chamesh for the rest of the Banos Chamesh time. So it's called Dina's Happy Place, where it's going to be a room, not a ditch room, but a room where girls are able to go and be surrounded by happiness and positivity. We're going to be having a program with the alumni of Banos Chamesh, where an alumni is going to be paired with a 12th grader, and they're going to take turns every week, once a week, learning and coming up with together, the alumni and the 12th grader, coming up with a positivity thought, a kindness thought, a happiness thought. And the 12th grader is going to present it and share it with the girls. And they're going to put it in a beautiful frame, and they're going to hang it on one of the walls in this room. And eventually the room is going to be covered in frames that of positivity, kindness, happiness thoughts that we always saw in Dina, and that we know that she would want the girls to feel when they're in this space. And in this way, we could continue to keep Dina there, and she would be giving the chance for in Banos Chamesh for these girls to be in a really happy space, remembering what we always saw on her face.
Thank you, Mindlin, for a beautiful project, which I'm sure will be a source of nachas, pride, and an aliyah for the neshama, the soul of Dina Leah. I'd also like to add on the list of thank yous, and I'm sure the Rosenzweigs won't mind, our partners, who without them we could not have done anything. Rabbi Meir and Hadassah, who are always there and have been there throughout, especially during the most challenging moments, and really have enabled and together been partners in all of the help that we were able to try to extend, and hopefully we will be there for each other, always helping each other, but hopefully in the future for happy occasions. This time we have the honor to have Rabbi Sheis Tab, Chabad and a five-town scholar in residence, who will now address the topic, the soul of a child. A special talk that will hopefully have each and every one of us see the greatness in every child. Rabbi Tab, we are looking forward to inspiration. Thank you, Rabbi Tab.
Thank you, Rabbi. Okay, I'm just going to make sure I'm unmuted and that my sound is down. These are the technological considerations of the day. Okay, just want to make sure I'm set up with no feedback. Looks good. Okay. A Shloshim is never an easy event, especially for someone so young as Dina Leah, 19 years old, full of life, so beloved, and it's a difficult event. I want everyone to understand, first of all, that the family has, in privacy, has discussed and shared memories of Dina Leah. And the purpose of tonight's event is a dedication, a monument, if you will, that each of us can take on in our own lives and do this for the elevation and in the Dina Leah. Tonight's talk is child. We heard Mordechai lead the completion of the study of Mishnayos, and as he mentioned, the word Mishnah is the letters of neshama, which means soul. And really, a real event is a time to reflect upon a soul's short time in this world and what it's accomplished. And as the wisest of all men said it, "V'hachai yiten alibai," that those who are living shall take it to heart. Those of us who remain here in this world, souls and bodies, should hopefully take a lesson, some direction, some focus in our own lives on the occasion of the 30-day memorial. We're just coming from Rosh Hashanah. Yesterday was Rosh Hashanah, the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And in the Haftorah, one of the things that we read about when it's describing Hashem's special love for the Jewish people is this very poignant metaphor that compares the Jewish people to a child. The words are well known. Havein yaker li Ephraim im yeled shashuyim. Isn't my son Ephraim, Ephraim refers to the entire Jewish people, a precious child? Isn't he a child of delight? And all of us understand immediately the metaphor of a child, the preciousness of a child, the beauty of a child. But I want to share with you a thought from the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim points out specifically that the reason in this Haftorah, which we read on Rosh Hashanah, which is the day of judgment, when we're being judged by Hashem, why do we specifically want to invoke the fact that we are like Hashem's precious beloved little child, not just a ben is a son, but a yeled. A yeled means a little child, a yingalid, a little boy. Why are we like a little child? So the Orach Chaim says like this. Generally speaking, there's nothing better for social distancing. He doesn't use the term social distancing, but I'm using the language of today. There's nothing better for social distancing, meaning more automatically effective than smelling bad. A person who has a bad smell on him automatically is going to make people stand away. And yet, a remarkable thing is that children, especially little babies, they often don't smell so good. And yet, it never causes a parent to refrain from holding their child, from picking up their child, from looking at the child and delighting in him or her and thinking how beautiful this child is. So the Orach Chaim specifically says, why do we want Hashem to think of us as a little child? Because we know that faults that you would not overlook when it comes to an adult, you not only overlook, but it doesn't even bother you when it comes to a cute little baby. I think there's something important there for us. to consider. And it's not just about Rosh Hashanah. It's really about all year round. Why are babies beloved? Why are babies precious? Why is it so easy to find a baby lovable? So I was thinking, parents, when their child is a baby and he's lying there in his crib or her crib, they have so much nachas from their child. And it's really funny because the child didn't do anything. What are you proud of? What are you proud of? The child didn't do anything yet. And yet, everybody looks at the baby and they're so proud. So, where's this coming from? What's this about? Nobody says to their baby lying in their crib, hey, listen, why don't you grow up, learn how to talk, we'll go out for coffee, we'll have some conversations, and I'll figure out if you're the kind of person that I like. Why don't you go accomplish something? You have something to show for yourself. You'll have a CV, you have a resume, and then I'll see if I like you. Nobody says that to their baby. The baby gets a free pass. Automatically, the baby is beloved, and not just beloved, we are proud of the baby. We have nachas from the baby. It's a funny thing, isn't it? But here's the thing. There are two types of nachas. There's nachas because of what you've done. I'm proud of what you've done. And then there's a much more essential nachas that's much deeper, which is I'm proud of who you are. When Hashem looks at the Jewish people, yes, there is a certain degree of nachas over what we do when we do mitzvahs. But there's a deeper nachas that Hashem gets that has nothing to do with mitzvahs, has nothing to do with anything that we do. It has to do with who we are. And this is what is referenced in the verse. In fact, it's one of the verses, the 12 psukim, which the Rebbe instituted that every child should know and know by heart and be able to teach to their friends. That Hashem looks at the Jewish people and says, Ma'aseh yodei lehispoer. They are the work of my hands to be proud of. He's proud of them just for who they are. And that's what we see when we look at a baby. We do not put conditions. We do not put limitations on our pride of them. We don't say, maybe grow up, accomplish something, then, we'll evaluate it and we'll decide whether or not we're proud of you. We look at them and we are proud of who they are just because they exist, just because they are. So tell me, when are we right? When we look at the baby and we have unconditional pride? Or when the baby grows up and all of a sudden they have to earn pride. They have to earn worthiness. They have to prove that they're worthy of validation. When are we right? When we give them unconditional pride, when we're proud of them just because? Or when we tell them, we'll be proud of you when you earn it. And if you want to be like Hashem, and you want to be proud of your child the way Hashem is proud of your child, then the answer is obvious. We were right when they were babies, when we put no conditions on our pride. And we increasingly drifted from that when we started putting conditions on it. So when it comes to a baby, we get it right. I'll tell you when else we get it right. Unfortunately, when else do we look at someone and we say they're perfect, they're holy? We don't scrutinize them anymore. We don't evaluate them. We don't compare them to others. We just say they're good, they're beautiful. When do we do that? Unfortunately, after they pass away. I'm sure people are familiar with the saying we have, Achrei meis kedeshim emor. Those are parshas in succession. But Achrei meis, after passing, kedeshim, holy emor is what you should say. You say that somebody's holy after they passed away. Okay? So why do we say somebody is holy and perfect? Baby, or when they just passed away. Why is that? Why are those the two times when everyone gets a free pass? Why are we so liberal at those times and say everyone's perfect? And maybe, maybe we're being too soft. Maybe we're being too gentle, It's like the participation trophies. Everyone gets a trophy. Everyone's a winner, right? Maybe we need to be tough, right? Maybe we should start putting conditions on our love and our pride of babies and of the departed. No, but nobody thinks that. You know why nobody thinks that? Because the one time, or actually the two times in a person's life when everybody has clarity is either when they just got to this world or they just left. And why is it? Why is it that we realize how precious and pure and holy a person is either when they just got to this world or when they just left this world? Very simple. Because what makes every one of us precious and pure and perfect? The neshama. The neshama. The neshama is precious and pure and perfect. The soul that you've placed within me is pure, is perfect. So when the soul just got to this world, we can still sort of pick up, even regular people like us, can still sort of pick up on the fact this otherworldly being has just arrived from another plane of reality. We sense the neshama. I mean, put it a different way. When someone's a baby, of course we sense the neshama. Well, there's nothing to get in the way. They haven't established themselves as a human being. They don't have yet a personality. So of course it's the neshama. What do you see but the neshama? And also when they pass away, when they've left their worldly existence behind, and then all they have is the neshama. So then again, everyone becomes pure and holy and precious and perfect. Why? Because again, now they're just the neshama. So the two times that we get it right are the two times when we're seeing people as their neshama. Either when they just got here when they're babies, or they just left when they've passed away. The question for us is, if we can work on all those days and months and years in between those 2 points and start seeing each other as precious, pure, perfect, and holy. Start seeing the neshama in each other after you're no longer a baby anymore and before you've left this world after 120. Gemara in Nedarim, Daf Samach Vav Amud Aleph. It talks about a man made a neder that he's not going to marry a particular woman. Now, when a person makes a neder, the only way to get out of it is you have to go be shoyl by a chacham. That means you have to go ask the sage, and the sage has to find what's called a pesach, an opening. And what's the opening? He has to find some fact that had you known it at the time you made the vow, you would never have made that vow. So in this particular, like if a person says, I'm not going to eat milchiks anymore, and then you come to get absolved of the vow, and so the chacham will say, well, did you know ice cream is milchik? No, I didn't know that. If I had known that at the time of the oath, I would never have made such an oath. Okay, fine, so you're released. So this guy made a vow, made a neder, he's not going to marry a certain woman. And for whatever reason, it was not a vow that there was pressure that he shouldn't keep it. Anyways, long story short, who was Rabbi Yishmael? Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol. We're going to read about Rabbi Yishmael in just a week from now on Yom Kippur, when we read about the Asari Haruge Malchus, about the 10 martyrs. Rabbi Shmuel was one of the 10 martyrs who was brutally tortured and murdered as a leader of the Jewish people. He was murdered by the Romans. We read about his fate in the Machzor on Yom Kippur Day. So Rabbi Shmuel was the particular chacham in this story, the particular sage. This man came to Rabbi Shmuel. He says, I made a neder. I'm not going to marry this particular woman. So Rabbi Shmuel says, let me see what I can do to find the Pesach, to find the loophole to get you out of it. Has to be something that if you had known at the time of the vow, you would never have made the vow. So he arranged that they should bring this woman to him. And what did he do? What did Rabbi Shmuel do? He gave her a makeover. Can you believe that? A Tana gave a young lady a makeover. You can make a reality show out of this, right? He gave her a makeover, and he decked her out in jewels and fine clothing and the whole thing. And she looked like $1 million. After she was all dressed to the nines, they brought her in. And Rabbi Yishmael asked this young man, he says, young man, is this the young woman that you said that you would never marry? He took one look at her and he said, no, not this young woman. Why would I say something so foolish like that? Of course I didn't say that. That was the Pesach. If I had known she could look like this when she was made over, I would never have made, right? That was the whole point of the makeover, right? So Rabbi Shmuel lifted the vow. And that's not the end of the story. It's not the point of the story. The Gemara then continues and says, "Ba'esei shah." At that moment, Bacha Rabbi Yishmael va'amar. Rabbi Yishmael cried. He wept. He wept to Hashem, and he said, "Kol b'nai Yisrael yafes no'es." All Jewish daughters are beautiful. But poverty mars their beauty. This is the lesson. This is the lesson for each of us. The neshama is a precious, beautiful, perfect daughter of Hashem. It comes down to this world and the poverty of this world, of being a neshama in a body, and a nefesh abamis, and being in golus, and all the distractions of ilam haza, of this physical world. And it takes a toll. Don't fool yourself that it takes a toll. And when you meet this neshama as it is in a body, you don't necessarily recognize, you don't necessarily see that perfection that's inside. You have to be a maven, like Rabbi Yishmael, to be able to see that, to understand what the potential is there. Rabbi Yishmael was able to see it. He understood. Understand, this whole story is a parable. It's not about makeovers. It's about the potential of every single Jew. When he saw a Jew who doesn't look perfect, he understood it's only a question of a diamond in the rough. It's only a question of revealing what's inside and bringing it out. He knew that all that beauty is already there. And this is why he cried and he wept. And he said, Rabbeinu Shleilim, all of the Jewish people are beautiful. But the poverty of being in this exile and being in this world takes a toll. What do you want? So what am I saying? That each of us should be a Rabbi Yishmael. You should meet a Jew and you should see them for their neshama. That would be nice. I'm not even saying that. Maybe that's a level. Maybe we can't reach that. To be able to meet somebody and see them for their soul, to see the pure neshama within. Maybe that's too lofty for us to aspire to. But I'll say this. We have a Perek Lamed Beis of Tanya. We have a book called Tanya, which is our basic guidebook to life. Chapter 32, which is in Hebrew Lamed base, which is the word lev, which means heart. The heart of our guidebook in life tells us one thing very clear. That at least conceptually, at least as an idea, we have to devote ourselves to seeing others as their souls. Can we actually see souls? Are we a tzaddik, a rebbe, who looks at a Jew and sees the spiritual being within? Okay, no, maybe not. But we know the truth. We know the fact that it's there. Like in Chassidus, it talks about Hasagas HaMahus and Yedias HaMetzias. Okay, so maybe you've never been to the moon, but you've seen pictures, right? Unless you're a conspiracy theorist. So maybe you can't see in the Shama, but you know it's there. And we have tzaddikim who told us what's there. And we have tzaddikim who showed us the belief that we have that each one of us has this power within. So comes a time to reflect, to take to heart a message that will change, hopefully, our own personal lives and change our homes, change our families, change our communities, and by extension, hopefully change the world, is to start to see the pure, precious neshama. You know, the Abderov used to say that you could find Avos Yisrael. They called him the Eyev Yisrael, the Abderov. He used to say you can find Avos Yisrael in every word in the Torah. So one of the Talmidim said, what about Balak? Balak is the name of an anti-Semitic king. He was a Jew hater. In the word Balak, you can find Avos Yisrael, the love of Jews. He says, sure, Balak's an easy one. It's a Rosh Hashanah, it's an acronym. Beis Lamed Kuf, V'ahavta l'reacha kamecha, love your fellow as yourself. So they said, hold on a second. V'ahavta is with a vav, not a vase. Okay, kamecha is with a chaf, not a kuf. So only one out of the three letters is actually correct. So the Abderov said, when it comes to v'ahavta l'reacha kamecha, you can't be so fussy. And by the way, that is one approach to loving each other, is take off your glasses and you blur your vision and you don't see so well, and it becomes easier to love each other. You know, it's like putting a little gauze on the lens, right? And then there's another approach, and that is the approach, almost the opposite, actually. Not to say that if you can't find what to love about a Jew, don't look so closely. Stop looking so closely. Stop scrutinizing. No, the opposite, actually. If you can't find what to love about a Jew, look closer. You're not looking close enough. What does it mean, look closer? A little patience, a little tolerance. Take a little time. Try to appreciate what every single one of us has to offer. Because Hashem does not send superfluous souls to this world. Every single soul that comes to this world comes here to accomplish a mission that no soul has ever accomplished before and no soul will ever accomplish after. And so if you think that there's not something awe-inspiring about every Jew, even a child, because if we're talking about a soul, what difference does it make, a child, a grown-up? If you don't think there's something to be in awe of about every Jew, you're not looking close enough. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the trap, how we get distracted, how we get caught up in incidental or in side points that cause us not to be able to hone in and see the soul, or at least appreciate that a soul is there. We know that the Jewish people, we are descended from the 12 tribes. And from the 12 tribes, there are two matriarchs, Rachel and Leah. Now, what do we know about Rachel and Leah? We're told ve'ene Leah rakois, the eyes of Leah were tender or bleary. It's an interesting thing to say about one of our matriarchs. Rachel hoisa yifas marav yifas toyer, and Rachel was beautiful of features and form. So a little bit funny. First of all, when it's talking about Leah, talking about bleary eyes, what kind of a thing is that to say? Second of all, it's talking about Rachel, and it's saying that she's beautiful. I mean, I'm sure she was beautiful, but that's how we speak about our matriarchs. So obviously it means spiritually beautiful. I mean, it means both also. It's literal as well. But it means spiritually beautiful. She was a beautiful tzaddikus. Okay, then we have another problem. Then what was Leah? The bleary eyes doesn't just mean physically. It also means something spiritual. So what are you telling me spiritually about Leah? Rachel was a perfect 10 spiritually. And Leah was what? What was she spiritually? So we have to understand, first of all, literally, what does it mean, the bleary eyes? Rashi helps us out right there in the pasuk. He says her eyes were bleary because she was crying all the time. Why was she crying all the time? Because everyone used to talk. You know how people talk? Okay. So they talked back then too. So what did everyone used to talk? They used to say, that Lavan has 2 daughters and his sister Rivka has 2 sons. And so therefore, they're going to make a shidduch between them. The older son will marry the older daughter. And the younger son will marry the younger daughter. So basically, Leah, who is the older, will marry Esav. And Rachel, who's the younger, she'll marry Yankiv. So her whole life, Leah grew up hearing she's going to marry Esav. Now, she knew who Esav was. He was a wild hunter. He was a wild guy. She didn't want to marry this wild guy. She wanted to marry Yankiv. He was very refined, very respectable, a young scholar. And her whole life, they didn't even give her a chance. They said she's going to marry this wild guy. So she was always crying. And because she cried all the time, it affected her appearance. And she looked sad. She looked kind of washed out. Her eyes were mushy, bleary. Okay. What's the point of all of this for us? Torah is not a history book. Torah is a guidebook. So Chassidus explains like this, that all of us are either Rachel's or Leah's. Like we're all from the 12 tribes. Well, even more basic than that, we're all either from Rachel or from Leah. I don't mean genealogically, I mean spiritually. There are Rachel types and there are Leah types. What's a Rachel type? A perfect 10. Beautiful of form, beautiful of appearance. I'm talking spiritually. Those are the people, they go into the system, they go into yeshiva, and they are model students. And teachers always write comments, it is such a pleasure, it is so easy to teach your child, right? Those are the people who don't struggle with not struggling. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Those are the people that they are the natural success stories. And it's just a pleasure to watch them succeed, and everything they take to, they do well at, and they're likable, and they don't struggle socially, and they don't struggle they don't struggle scholastically. It's beautiful. And then there's the Leah. Leah is unconventional. A Leah type. Those are the people who struggle. Those are the people who don't have it easy necessarily in life. Those are the people who don't always fit in. Lonely in a crowded room, terminally unique, always wanting to be a part of and instead feeling apart from. Sensitive souls. And they cry a lot also. And especially they cry because people look at them and they say, why can't you be more like your sister, Rachel? She fits in so much better. And So she cries. Leah cries a lot because they tell her, because she's unconventional, we have a shidduch for you. You're going to marry Esav, this wild hunter, this crazy guy. So they write her off. They dismiss her. Instead of being on the track to accomplish all the great things that her sister Rachel is right next to her accomplishing, they put her in the interesting category. You know that damning word in our community, interesting. You are interesting, and you're going to have an interesting life. And we've already written an interesting, we've already made a little box for the interesting people for you. That's please go there. That's the Leah. I want to tell you a story. There was a young man in Eretz Yisrael, a yeshiva dropout, and his father was a rabbi. He dropped out, and he really dropped out. He used to party hard. He would work in the daytime driving a tractor, and in the night he would go to the discos, and he lived it up. He barely slept. All day he was working to make money, and all night he was out having a good time. One day he decides, you know what? There's nothing to this anymore. I'm going back to yeshiva. And the yeshivas wouldn't take him back. He ended up in Lud, in the Chabad yeshiva. He was not from Chabad. He was from a Litvische family. He took a walk around the yeshiva, and he said, Zem. So the Rosh Yeshiva said, are you sure? Do you belong here? He said, trust me, don't worry. So what did he do? He used his skill that he used to have when he was out of yeshiva. He applied that to yeshiva. When he was out of yeshiva, he would work all day and then party all night and barely sleep. So when he came to yeshiva, what did he do? He would go to the regular classes all day. And then all night, he would study in order to catch up everything he had missed out. He barely slept, right? So he used that same wild personality from when he was out of yeshiva. He used that exactly to catch up in yeshiva. Not only the model young yeshiva bacher, and eventually he asked if he could go to New York to see the Rebbe. So normally the Rosh Yeshiva did not like to send bacher young, but this young man, he was more mature. He'd been out in the world already. He had experience, so it wasn't such a concern. So they told him, yes, you can go to New York, you can go to the Rebbe. So this young man, Reuven, his name was, he went to New York, and he prepared for his first Yechidus. Now, he had been told that your first Yechidus with the Rebbe sets you up for life. Whatever the Rebbe says to you in your Yechidus, this, especially the first thing the Rebbe will say to you, that's like your path in life. So he was very, very, focused on this, very intent on finding what's going to be the first thing that Rebbe says to him. So he wrote a long letter. Now, in the letter, he wrote his background about how he had left yeshiva. He wrote about, what had happened. And then, but the main part of the letter, he wrote about what he was doing in yeshiva now after he had come back, and he had joined Chabad, and he was learning Chassidus. And he wrote, that was the bulk of his letter about his spiritual growth in yeshiva. So the Rebbe took the letter, and the way the Rebbe used to read letters in Yechidus was the Rebbe would take the letter and put it like on a pencil and like this. Like scroll, this is kind of card stock here, but like scroll the paper over the pencil like that and like scan the pages very quickly and then put one paper aside and then take the next paper. So the Rebbe read all the papers, and after reading the whole report, this young Reuven, he was expecting the Rebbe is going to speak to him something that's going to set him up in his life for his spiritual path in life, something about what he's studying, something about all the davening he's doing, how he's growing and doing mitzvahs with special meticulous care. And after reading the whole report, the Rebbe looks up from the paper and he says to young Reuven, so you know how to drive a tractor? And the young man was beside himself because the tractor to him represented the dark side. when he left yeshiva and he ran away from Yiddishkeit, he was driving a tractor. So it was repulsive to him. And he was heartbroken that here he had worked so hard, and now he made it to the Rebbe, and the first thing the Rebbe said to him was, so you know how to drive a tractor. So he was absolutely heartbroken when he heard this. I'll make a long story short. He stayed in New York. He stayed in seventh with the Rebbe. It's known that when the Rebbe kept hours all night, the Rebbe would be in his room all night. This was the one bacher who would not leave the study hall until the Rebbe's light in the Rebbe's room out. He kept the Rebbe's hours. And he also had a free pass to come into Yechidus when he wanted to. An amazing story. But I'm going to fast forward to the end. At one point, the young man comes to the Rebbe in one of his Yechidusin, one of his one-on-one audiences. And the Rebbe says to him, it's time to go back to the tractor. What was the tractor? The tractor, he was living in Haifa. Haifa is a secular, leftist, socialist town. There's no Yiddishkeit in Haifa. Driving tractor, that's a working class, that's like salt of the earth, really, unrefined. And here he's studying, he wants to be a rabbi, to go on and use all of his learning. He wants to, something holy, or best, the best thing is just stay in 770 and stay with the Rebbe for the rest of his life. That would have made him very, very happy. And the Rebbe tells him, I want you to go back to Haifa, I want you to go back to the tractor. So he started crying. The Rebbe tells him, either way, you have to leave. Mamon of Shach, either way. If I'm a Rebbe, then I know where your soul belongs, and I'm telling you right now where it belongs. And if I don't know where your soul belongs, and I'm sending you to the wrong place, then I'm not a Rebbe, then why would you want to give up your life to stay here with me? So at this point, either way you slice it, you got it. And he was heartbroken, but he did what the Rebbe told him to, and he left. And Reuven Dunin went back to Haifa, and he got his job on the tractor, and he wore a hat, and he carried his lunch in a box every day to work. And he worked with gruff guys, manual laborers. And as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story is that in that capacity, he was able to bring to Yiddishkeit tens of thousands of people who would never speak to a rabbi. If he had been a rabbi in the conventional sense, with a congregation, with a pulpit, the people he was able to talk to would never even speak a word to him because they didn't speak to rabbis. But he was a regular guy, his tractor with his hard hat, he was able to be makarev, to bring close to Yiddishkeit tens of thousands of people. So the Rebbe was able to see, here's somebody who had an unconventional path. Here's somebody that the regular system might not have a place for. And the Rebbe not only was able to see how this person has an important shlichus, but that the whole idea of this person being unconventional, not fitting in the box, not being your standard yeshiva bacher, not being the one who went through the system the normal way, it was the plan B. This itself was the greatest potential power. We have so many layers who have incredible power, who can do things in this world to finish the job and to bring Mashiach. And we need to let them loose onto the world. But the problem always with a layer is we hold them back. We try to protect them from themselves. We're afraid that they're going to do something outgoing, something novel, something crazy. The whole reason Hashem made them layers and not rachels is that they should do something unconventional. But we try to protect them from themselves. We try to make them rachels. We try to put a square peg in a round hole and cause them all this anxiety. And we tell them, a person like you is going to marry an Asaph. But you want to know the secret? The secret is Leah really should have married him. Not because of the reason people were saying, but for a deeper reason. Not because, oh, Nebuch, let the unconventional, interesting one marry the other interesting one, but for a much deeper reason. If Rachel would have married Esav, you would have devoured her. You would have eaten her alive. She wouldn't be able to accomplish anything in that marriage. But Leah, with her unconventional personality, maybe call them rough edges, even if you will, she could have elevated Esav. How do we know this? Because we're told like mother, like daughter. Where does the expression like mother, like daughter come from? It comes from Leah and her daughter Dina. Leah had a daughter named Dina. And Dina also could have refined Esav. She cleaned him and brought Mashiach. And when there was that fateful showdown between Yaakov and Esav, that was the opportunity for that to happen. And Yaakov Avinu protected Dina from herself. It says he put her in a box so that Esav wouldn't see her. He was afraid of what would happen to her. Now, and we know that tragedy befell her anyway. Anyway, a tragedy befell her. The whole story of Shem and Chamer, the story of what happened to her. But he tried to protect her from herself, putting her in a box and hiding her away. She had the koyach of her mother. Dina had the koyach of Leah, and even more so. And she could have refined Esav. And refining Esav means bringing up. We all know, according to the Chassidus, why Yitzchak wanted to give the brachas to Yitzchak to Esav instead of to Yaakov. Because if Esav could be refined, that's Mashiach already. Dina could have brought Mashiach that she had to refine Esav. But she was protected from herself. She wasn't allowed to. We have in our midst precious Leahs and Dinas and Dinas and Leahs that have unconventional powers for unconventional times to accomplish unconventional tasks, which is what's called for now as we're trying to finish the last tasks to finish off this Golus and bring Mashiach already. So for our own, at least for our own selfish motives, if we can't do it out of Avos Yisrael, if we can't do it because of a chapter 32 of Tanya, at least do it because each one of us has reasons why we're in pain and Golus, and let's put an end to the Golus by unleashing the power of the Leahs and the Dinas who have skill sets. And instead of reining them in and putting them in the box like Yaakov Avinu did, instead of comparing them to Rachel, who Leah is never going to be a Rachel, and she doesn't need to be a Rachel. Rachel can be a Rachel. We're not putting down Rachels, by the way. We need Rachels. Rachel is beautiful. We need Rachel to be Rachel, but we need Dina and Leah to be Dina and Leah. I'm so heartened and inspired and encouraged by what I heard about the two programs that are being done in Dina Leah's in her memory. The life program, literacy, inclusion, friendship, emotional health. That's literally life, and it's literally life-giving. It's literally life-giving to give extra support and encouragement to those who might be struggling scholastically and not in a way of pitying them, looking down at them, but in a way of realizing these precious neshamas are assets. These are people who are sent to the world with incredible koyach. These are the to bring Mashiach, and we have a schus, we have a merit to just provide them a little bit of support so that they can do their shlichus in the world and do what they were sent here for. Also, what we heard about the Dina's Happy Place is going to be set up in B'nai Chomish. What an amazing concept. What an amazing concept. In the school, instead of so many children who go to school and feel inhibited, feel crushed, they feel like school is a place where they cannot find a safe place, to provide within the walls of the school a happy place. And I want to say something. Those of us who have a Rebbe who sees the neshama in each and every Jew, our Rebbe sees the precious, perfect neshama in each and every one of us. And not just when we're babies, and not just when we just passed away and left the world. Our Rebbe sees the beauty, perfection, the potential in every single one of us. Those of us who have such a Rebbe. And those of us who have a guidebook for life called a Tanya with a chapter 32, a Perek Lev, that teaches to look at the soul. We have to be at the forefront of inclusion, of supporting every type child. The forefront. I'm going to say those who have our guide in life, those who have Chassidus book in life. We should not ever be second fiddle. We should be at the forefront. We have the tools, we have the wisdom, we have the light, we have the knowledge. We know how to see and bring out the beauty and the perfection in every single different kind of child. Leading this, and the world should be learning from us. And the same way the world from us in the world of Shlichus, where we showed in the world of Shlichus what it means to love and to cherish every single, lead the world in Chinuch, to love and cherish every precious Jewish child as a neshama. So if each one of us can take on one thing, those of us who are parents, those of us who are educators, those of us who are students, one thing toward this cause, and to do this in the merit of Leah, and to finish her job and all of our jobs collectively to bring Mashiach already to this world and bring healing to all of us.
Thank you, Rabbi Taub. Amazing. Hayit and Aliba reflecting on Dina Leah. I want to utilize this opportunity on behalf of all of us here and all who could not make it on and will watch it later, to wish Menachem, Dvorah, and the whole Rosenzweig family that you should only know from happiness from here on, not only by reflecting on the beauty of Dina Leah, but also enjoying each and every one of your children. Baruch Hashem, we have the good fortune to get to see them on a regular basis, and they are each and every one special and unique in their own way. You have the schus. You are raising a family of role models, of Jews, of Chassidim, of Mekusharim connected to the Rebbe. May we all be blessed with a Gmar Chasim Teva, a happy and healthy new year, and a year that we will see redemption, being reunited with Dina Leah and with all loved ones, and may it be in the immediate future. Shana Tova to all, and may we get together in the future for revealed happiness. If you wish, anybody who wishes to unmute, feel free to do so. Want to share a few words, a few thoughts, feel free to do so.
Yeah, hello, it's Menachem. Can you hear me? I don't know, hopefully you can hear me. Thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you for everyone for attending, and also I apologize that there are people that we didn't mention by name that did a lot to help us with this the whole thing we just went through, and like the Rahabis and the Pragers and other people as well. Again, I'm sure there's others, whatever, but you get the idea. That's it. That's what I'm going to say. And basically, like we said many times already, we need Mashiach. We know that already. We know more. And Also, everyone should have in mind the other girl that was in the car with Dina, that she should have a full shlema. She should have a much speedy. She's, thank God she's recovering, but she should have a faster recovery. It's so we should have good news soon about Esther Perel Bas Chana Devorah, and that's it. Thank you.